Alrighty, let's get on to the less wrong posts.
Let's do it.
Okay. The first one is replace the symbol with the substance.
So
this continues
to remind us and me, this, because it was like, 4 or 6 weeks ago that we sat down to talk about the last one. It was where we finally did the taboo, rationalist taboo post.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're this is following up from that.
It is. And this one, it feels like, even though the taboo your words is what everyone remembers, it feels like almost this is the one that he was writing as the climax, right? This has the more of the large soaring language, that this is the point kind of words. But and
it does the like a good comedy sketch or a good movie. It has all the callbacks.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, as I said, here, and here. Yeah, it's great
with links. Yeah, but yeah, he recalls the previous post with the baseball tabooing the words, says, are those bases? No, they're fixed points on a game field that players try to run to as quickly as possible because of their safety within the game's artificial rules, which is, I don't know, I just thought that was a cool reminder of where we're at, especially for you and me who've had a long break between these posts. The thing coming after this is that the chief obstacle to performing an original seeing is that your mind already has a nice, neat summary, a nice little easy-to-use concept handle, like the word baseball or bat or base. It takes an effort to stop your mind from sliding down the familiar path, the easy path, the path of least resistance, where the small featureless word rushes in and obliterates the details you're trying to see.
Yeah, no, it's a good way to put it. And I mean, it's so easy to say, but it's so hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of like the last time I've done this. And, we kind of did this talking a bit about applying the Blegg and Rube categorization fallacy to some modern mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
So it's not entirely dissimilar to that. Yeah.
It's I think very much exactly that, actually.
Oh, good. Yeah. All right.
He points out that playing the game of taboo, being able to describe without using the standard pointer / label / handle, is one of the fundamental rationalist capacities, which makes me think, should we add the game of taboo to like our meetups toolkit or something? Like, nobody ever plays the games there because we're all there to socialize, but it feels like that might be a good idea to have, or maybe to stock on the shelf of whatever rationalist church gets invented, if that ever happens.
I'll buy a copy. It could just be a fun thing to play for fun, and if we get lulls at meetups or something, could be a conversation starter.
Yeah, I think things like that to just stretch your rationality muscles if you haven't used them in a while. Not a bad idea to bust it out. Maybe once every few months, play a game.
It might put us better in the habit of like actually remembering to do it when we're when we need to.
Exactly. Yeah.
It seems like once every few months, I'm like, man, we should have tabooed this word 30 minutes ago.
Right. Oh.
Yeah, maybe we can get that time down to 5.
Yes. I pulled this out because he rips on schooling. So my personal hobby horse of mine. He says, why are you going to school? To get an education ending in a degree. Blank out the forbidden words and all their obvious synonyms. Visualize the actual details. And you're much more likely to notice that school currently seems to consist of sitting next to bored teenagers listening to material you already know. That a degree is a piece of paper with some writing on it, and that education is forgetting the material as soon as you're tested on it.
Zing.
Yeah, it's
I mean, he's not wrong.
It seems extremely uncharitable, but yeah.
Like, and so I think it's maybe because we're so removed from this already, having had the years of Hansonian thinking drilled into our brains, but it's just clear that that's not the point of school, right?
Right, but if you sit down and you look at what you're doing, doesn't that basically fit?
Oh yeah, no, this is exactly what you are doing. But that's because the purpose of school isn't to go get an education.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, the point is to go get domesticated so you'll be a good desk monkey.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sitting at desks for long periods of time is not our natural habitat, but we can be trained into it.
Yeah. And he brings this back to when he said that, like, this small featureless word rushes in to obliterate the details. He uses this as an example. He says, you want to learn, so you need an education. And then as long as you're getting anything that matches against the category education, you may not notice whether you're learning or not.
What's really fun is, if you had a thought, I'll let you finish that.
No, go ahead.
I remember reading these posts when I was in my early 20s. Sounds about right. And that was at the time where I got an associate's degree from the community college, and because that doesn't really do anything, I went on to I took a few months off, and then was wondering like, man, what do I do? I trying to do the thing that everyone does, figure out what to do with their lives. And I was like, oh, I can go back to school, because that's a good answer to the question, what are you doing with your life? Right? Oh, I'm going to school.
Yeah, right. And everyone's like, oh, very good, very good.
And the thing is, like, I knew I was bullshitting myself into it. Like, I think I never actually even bullshitted myself. Like, it was all like, I knew it was a facade when I was doing it. Yeah. And then I was reading this, and I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one who's like this isn't. Obviously, I'm not the first person to pull that move intentionally, but it was funny having it like directly called out in a kind of sideways, passerby context.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I mean, I don't blame people for it. It's legit scary to go out and join the real world. Going and getting an education seems like a good thing to do, safe thing to do. It's just we should celebrate the people who've mustered up the courage to not do that.
Well, and it's also like it opens doors in the past that now it just doesn't.
Yeah.
People used to see, oh, you went to school. So like, that means not that you know anything. That's not what we're looking for, but it means that you can go to school.
Yes.
They make it, like an advanced version of going to primary school. So that means that you'll be an extra good desk monkey.
Yeah.
And so it was important to signal that in the past. And now I think it's easier than ever to just get credentialed through alternative means that are actually teaching you how to do the thing you want to do for your job.
Yeah.
And then you can just skip the whole 4-year. I think it was, I forget in what context, but I believe it was Matt Freeman that I heard point out just incredulously, like, what are the odds just that it would take the same amount of time to learn the basics of physics and art?
Right.
Why does an engineering degree take as long to get as a physical education degree?
Yeah.
Why is it 4 years for all of these? How could that possibly be the case? It's clear they're not just teaching you this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, skip all that and get your knowledge the fast way.
I mean, learning on the job, if you can do it, if you can do it, I mean, it's hard to get hired without a degree, but if you can do it, learning on the job is so much faster, and you retain the shit that you learn.
Yeah.
Like, you learn the stuff that you actually need.
Actually, and this is true of my job and everyone I've talked to about their job, you always learn on the job. Like, nothing teaches you how to do your work better than doing it. And then there's this really cool, like, actual stick and carrot of like a paycheck versus being fired. So
right.
That's a lot scary. That's a lot more incentivizing than an A or a D.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So learning on the job is tight. You actually learn.
You do. He points out that to categorize is to throw away information. You want to use categories to throw away irrelevant information, to sift gold from dust. But often the standard categorization ends up throwing out relevant information too. So that's good and bad things about having categories, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's the nice shorthand. It's the problem of having, label handles for concepts,
Yeah. So yeah, there's this thing about categorization throwing out relevant information. He then goes on to point out that, in fact, saying play taboo is a great example of that. By saying, if you just think play taboo to force original seeing, you'll start thinking that anything that counts as playing taboo must count as original seeing.
Shit. This is what I was proposing earlier.
Yep. The rationalist version isn't a game, which means that you can't win by trying to be clever and stretching the rules. And that was when I said, damn it, maybe buying a copy of Taboo won't be that useful. I still think it would be useful, though, to keep the muscles limber.
Yeah, I agree. I think that what he's saying is valid in that it's, hardly the same thing as doing this for real, but just like, practicing kata or sparring isn't real fighting. It helps prepare you for it.
Yeah.
And so I do think that, as long as we're not pretending we're, doing the real deal, it's just like in Matt's decision theory course that you can take on the Guild of the Rose. He talks about, training the habit of making predictions and assigning probabilities as, do it with dumb things,
Mm-hmm.
He tries to like just guess the weight of the world's biggest whale or something. And then you see the thought, he walks through all the steps and he's got this really cool tool that he links to in the videos. But, there's no illusion that this is an important decision,
Yeah.
Like you really need to know that, you look it up. But that's not the point, right? The point is here to train and calibrate.
Right.
So, yeah, we can still do that with the game.
Yeah. And that is a thing that you can do if you join the Guild of the Rose as well.
Exactly.
Okay, so purpose is lost whenever the substance is displaced by the symbol. And then he says a whole bunch of things which boil down to replace the word with the meaning, but including the one that I want to pull out, replace the property with the membership test, which I found really interesting because I hadn't quite considered doing that before, but I like that phrasing of it.
Go ahead and dig into it.
Like the property of, I don't know.
Let's talk about birds or humans.
Okay, yeah, birds. Is that a bird? Like, replace that with, is that a winged creature that flies?
See, that what's great about it is because when you said, is that a bird, I start immediately picturing examples that, people wouldn't think of. I'm like thinking of the the turkey by the supermarket for Thanksgiving, right? Is that a bird? Like, I guess, right? But is it a winged flying creature? Hell no, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah. Okay, and he says, and then, this is a good place to end, and then there's the most important word of all to taboo. I've often warned that you should be careful not to overuse it, or even avoid the concept in certain cases. Now you know the real reason why. It's not a bad subject to think about, but your true understanding is measured by your ability to describe what you're doing and why without using that word or any of its synonyms. And there's several links in the words here that link back to posts that are basically saying, stop using the word rationality. You're using it as a crutch. So yeah, the most important word of all to taboo is rational. Don't say that something is rational or irrational. Describe what you're doing and why instead.
I mean, I'm pretending to be, like challenging of that, but I'm not. Like, it's useful when, I guess, when is it ever useful to say, like, well, this is the rational thing to do? Like, outside of the very specific context of, like, knowing that you're talking to other economists or decision theorists and you're, like, talking about whether or not to invest in GameStop, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to justify a decision by saying, well, that was rational, you're better off just not saying, you're better off just pointing out why you actually made the decision.
Yeah. I mean, it feels more like a shorthand of saying the reasons for that decision are legible to me. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. And so I guess, again, somebody who knows who would share that handle with it, it's valuable. But like, I was at a work retreat last week. I was in Detroit all week and I got to meet my coworkers, which was fun. I got to go to the office for the first time in like years. And they put us up at a casino hotel. So every night after work, we'd go to the casino and get, blasted and burn some cash. And I learned how to play craps. This is going somewhere, I swear. There's all kinds of nuances and dumb things to it, but the basic gist is that you put money down, and someone whose job it is to throw the dice, like in the movies, they roll dice until it lands on nut 7, which it usually does, and then they put the button on that, and you're basically just betting that it's going to land on that again before it lands on 7.
Okay.
The thing is, when you throw 2 dice, 7 is the most likely outcome. 1/6 of dice throws if you're throwing 2 dice land on 7.
Okay.
And none of the other numbers have that combination that gets them that high. So it's like, this game is just so obviously rigged. And yet here people are like having fun and, whatever. And it's just like, I'm just watching money burn away. This is crazy. It was the smart thing to do. The legible decision was to say, cut my losses. I learned how to play the game. This is not a winnable game. I'm out.
But that's only if your objective is to win money. If your objective is to like burn money with friends to get a sense of shared camaraderie, then maybe it is rational to do that. Yeah.
The cool thing is you can stand next to your friends and kind of cheer them on and stuff.
Okay.
So, the hanging out part was available without it. It's not like whatever. You could never do that like at a Texas Hold'em table or something.
Right, yeah. You can't be looking over someone's shoulder and be like, oh, that's a great ace that you just drew.
Right. Yeah, because there's no cheating really in craps, right?
Yeah.
And I got, there was funny things that happened about that, but that's more digging into stuff that is not why we're here. We're going to move on to fallacies of compression.
All right. Fallacies of compression. The only 100% accurate map of California is California. But he parlays that into the map is not the territory, but you can't fold up the territory and put it into your glove compartment.
That phrase has always stuck with me. I don't know if he's used it, in conversations and podcasts or something, or if it's just one that always stuck with me, but it illustrates the exact picture perfectly. And it makes the map territory language, it illustrates why that's so perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He expands on this. He says, reality is very large. Just the part we can see is billions of light years across. But your map of reality is written on a few pounds of neurons folded up to fit inside your skull. So our map is probably going to be a bit lossy, much like the map of California is a bit lossy.
Yeah, we can't capture each individual strand of grass on a map of California.
Nope. We certainly need to take a lot of shortcuts and rounding offing in our maps of the universe and our place within it. Because otherwise, what you could do?
Yeah. If you're trying to chart how to get from Los Angeles to San Diego, and your only way to do that is to walk because you don't have a map, like that would kind of ruin the point if you're trying to plot the best route, right?
Yeah.
This metaphor is getting tortured, but I love nothing more than a tortured metaphor.
Well,
so where does the fallacy of compression come in?
So the fallacy is that some things might be compressed more than you think they're compressed. He points out that a sufficiently young child or sufficiently ancient Greek philosopher would not know that there were such two distinct things as acoustic vibrations or auditory experiences. There would just be a single thing that happened when a tree fell, a single event called sound. To realize that there are two distinct events underlying one point on your map is an essentially scientific challenge. A big, difficult scientific challenge. He talks about this for a bit, and then later on says the obvious modern-day illustration would be words like intelligence or consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So they're compressing a whole bunch of stuff into a single word, and that is lossy and not a great idea. Yeah, I like what he said here. Okay, let me read this last thing real fast because unless you wanted to say some more. Sorry.
No, go nuts.
Okay, because this next part is relevant. He says, where you see a single confusing thing with protean and self-contradictory attributes, it is a good guess that your map is cramming too much into one point. You need to pry it apart.
Yeah, intelligence and consciousness, I made it doesn't count as a prediction because I probably remembered this in some part of my brain, but I've said over and over going through this, the human use of words sequence that he didn't want to have debates with people about what intelligence meant, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like for, like you proposed just saying, use the word capabilities instead or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's not bad, especially people are insisting on getting bogged down. But yeah, he's just outright saying here, like, look, this is not where the debate is.
Right.
Arguing about what this word means.
The thing that lets us go to Mars and live there, where monkeys are still stuck in their forests, that's the thing that we're worried about.
Yeah. The thing that keeps the inside of our house the temperature we want it to be. Everything I can see in the room except for actually I can't even see the air. So, and the air itself actually is, pumped through an air filter through a furnace, right? So
yeah,
there's nothing around me that isn't the product of human intelligence.
God damn. That's
right?
a good point.
I guess like my skin and fingernails, right? But
well, it depends. Like my skin at this point is partially the use of human intelligence as well, because I spread stuff on it that makes it regenerate faster.
You make a good point. I use soap and lotion and I file my fingernails. So
let us tell the people what we're going to be reading next time.
Yeah, next time we've got Categorizing Has Consequences and Sneaking in Connotations.
Excellent.
Cool.